The autumn wind rattled against the old wooden frame of the house in Connecticut. Ed and Lorraine Warren, both carrying the weight of years spent fighting darkness, had agreed to one last case before stepping away forever. The request had come from a desperate family in Rhode Island. Their farmhouse had been plagued by shadows that whispered at night, objects that moved on their own, and an overwhelming stench of rotting flesh that filled the halls without explanation. Ed sat at the kitchen table, flipping through the family's reports. "This isn't just another haunting," he muttered, rubbing his temples. "These signs, they point to something ancient." Lorraine, her soft voice lined with exhaustion, added, "I've felt its presence since we agreed to come. It doesn't want to be found, it wants us to fear." That night, they arrived at the farmhouse. The moment they stepped through the door, a coldness wrapped around them like a suffocating blanket. The walls seemed to pulse, as though alive. Lorraine closed her eyes and whispered, "It knows we're here." Suddenly, the lights flickered. A deep growl echoed from the staircase. Ed raised his crucifix, but Lorraine's hand trembled as she pointed upstairs. "It's waiting." Together, they climbed the staircase, each step groaning under their weight. The air thickened with a metallic taste, like blood. At the end of the hallway, the door to the attic creaked open by itself. Inside, they found strange symbols etched into the wooden beams, burned deep into the structure. A foul shadow oozed from the carvings, twisting into monstrous shapes. Ed stepped forward, reading from his Bible. The shadows hissed, forming into the vague shape of a woman with hollow eyes. Lorraine gasped. "She's bound here! This isn't just a haunting, it's a curse." The entity lunged, its body stretching unnaturally. Books flew from shelves, glass shattered, and the house trembled as if in rage. Lorraine fell to her knees, clutching her rosary, whispering prayers as her vision clouded with horrific images, families torn apart, screams echoing through time. Ed's voice grew louder, commanding the entity to reveal its true form. From the darkness, a grotesque creature emerged, half human, half demonic, its face a hollow mask dripping shadows. It howled, shaking the rafters. Lorraine, her eyes glowing faintly with clairvoyant energy, spoke firmly. "You've fed on their fear long enough. In the name of God, you cannot stay." The demon shrieked, lunging at her. Ed thrust his crucifix forward, light blazing through the room. The entity recoiled, writhing like smoke and fire. But instead of fading, it split into multiple shadowy forms, crawling across the walls and ceiling. Lorraine screamed. "It's multiplying, Ed, it wants to consume us." The house erupted in chaos. Windows burst, wind howled through the halls, and the family huddled in terror downstairs. Ed and Lorraine stood their ground, side by side. Ed pressed the crucifix higher, his voice breaking as he shouted prayers. Lorraine, channeling every ounce of her psychic strength, reached out with her mind, her vision piercing the veil between worlds. She saw chains binding the demon to the house, forged from blood sacrifices long forgotten. She cried out, "Break the chains, Ed! Break them now!" With trembling hands, Ed smashed the burned symbols with holy water and a hammer. Each crack unleashed a piercing scream from the shadows, the house shaking violently as though it would collapse. Finally, with a blinding flash of light, the demon's form shriveled and dissolved into smoke. The air stilled. The walls stopped trembling. Silence fell over the farmhouse. Lorraine slumped against Ed's shoulder, her voice barely a whisper. "It's over." Ed looked at her, eyes heavy with sorrow. "We've faced countless horrors, Lorraine, but this one felt final." They walked out of the farmhouse at dawn, the golden light cutting through the mist. The family wept with gratitude, but Ed and Lorraine knew this victory came at a price. Their bodies were weary, their souls scarred. As they drove away, Lorraine looked back at the farmhouse one last time. She whispered softly, "This was our last case, Ed. The darkness will always exist, but so will the light." The sun rose higher, chasing away the shadows. For the first time in years, they allowed themselves to rest. But deep within the ruins of the attic, where the carvings once burned, a faint ember glowed. The darkness was never truly gone.